All right, here we go. Okay, today I have one of my favorite doctors again in the world, Dr. Patrick Flynn. Dude, before we get started, look, check this out. I went to your place
Hey, there you
in
go.
in Phoenix, and it was so crazy
Mhm.
because when I went in there, I said, "Hey, I want a multivitamin for my father." And they said, we don't really recommend anything without knowing what
Mhm.
they need. And I was like,
Yep.
I've never heard that before. Usually people
Yep.
want to sell me shit.
Nope.
And then I said, "What about my daughter? My daughter has autism." And people are always like, "Well, give her this and give her that and give her that." And they said, "We won't recommend anything until we do it." And
No.
I was so impressed, man.
Thank you.
Wow. Wow. What you've done is it gave me the chills, man. Thank you.
Appreciate that. No, that's it's funny you bring that up because and when they're done, and most nutritional things can be taken very safely. Let's just say that, okay? But I still see a lot of people take some really good things, and my question always then is to them is, how do you know you need it? Okay.
Mm,
And so and there's so much good science behind a lot of nutritional things and herbal things that we can have those discussions. It's just that when we relate herbal, nutritional, natural things to conditions, you're just practicing medicine with some lot less potent stuff than medications. And that's why there's that battle. I just come from a different perspective on it.
for sure. Yeah, the only thing that they pretty much said was I said, "Oh, I want to get some the
Mhm.
liver pills that you guys have." And they said, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's great."
Yep.
But they still were, it was like I was like, "Wow, like that's weird." That's
Yep.
that was
Yep.
odd. So great, very great, man. You've done amazing. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
creating that, brother. Um can we start with your wife? Last time we got cut
Absolutely.
off. So your wife was told you that she couldn't have children?
Yeah, to give a bigger context to it is before I met her, and I met her when she was 23, almost I think it was 23, and because I was 24, I turned 25 just some weeks after that. But what ended up happening was she was diagnosed with severe endometriosis to the point they almost took her uterus out. Okay, ulcerative colitis, cystic acne, and cluster headaches. Those were her diagnoses. Those were her true diagnoses given to her. Now, once again, if they may have diagnosed her with a little bit more today with all the things that they do, but those were the four diagnoses that she had confirmed. Okay. And because of their approach, she continued to get sicker and she was actually on medication. And I will say this though, she was also seeing a chiropractor. She was also taking supplementation. Okay. And that's where it was like, and their whole thing was listen, you're infertile. They said that even if you tried to get pregnant and something happened, you have very chance of having some severe things to you. So we encourage you not to do it that way. And so she just thought she was just never going to have a family. And if you ever ask Christy or look at the first book, I was always a big goal setter and plan for the future. My wife never planned for the future because she didn't know if she was even going to have one.
Yeah. And she was mixing medicine. They were giving her medicine, the general doctors, and
Yep.
doing what the chiropractor said.
Yeah, and so she was searching out alternative things that way, and because she was just suffering so badly, and how I met her was I was visiting my friend who's a chiropractor, and she was getting adjusted by her. She had a really bad headache that day, and so that's how we ran into each other. That's actually how we ran. She was actually going to get an adjustment by her chiropractor, which was an acquaintance that I went to school with that way, and that's how we met. That's how actually we met.
Oh wow!
Mhm. Yep.
And what is endometriosis? What is that? How do you?
Endometriosis.
And yeah, what is that?
So the uterus has a lining called the endometrium, and it can get thick and large within the uterus. It also can leave the uterus and end up in the pelvic cavity, the GI. They've even found it in the brain. And it's basically tissue that will grow independently of its even the uterus itself and can be very detrimental. And so you think of it this way, the reason why it's very hard for women that do have endometriosis to get pregnant is because the line becomes so thick
Mhm.
that the egg cannot plant on and have proper development that way. And so she has had the severe to the point where, a lot of times what happens with severe endometriosis, they'll go in, they'll scrape it off and try to thin it out. And there's a lot of women that get multiple surgeries and they'll say, okay, now try to get pregnant, stuff like that. And hers was just so severe. They're like, listen, we can't do that anymore. We just basically need to rip out your uterus.
Oh, and you helped her heal that?
Yep. So whenever you look at endometriosis, there is a hormone component. There's an immune component. There's a hormone component. So what I just let's use some basic things. It seems so simple when I explain it to you, but from our current form of healthcare still today, that's why people suffer from it badly. If you look at the endocrine component, the hormonal component to it that way, it's very common to have abnormal hormones, especially estrogen. But this is where I realized 26 years ago that our women were being misled. Now, let me explain. If we look at the general hormone for a man, and I say, hey, what's the hormone that kind of makes us who we are? Women know it right away, testosterone. It's even talked about a lot today. Testosterone is a very evident hormone. There's free testosterone, very easily measurable on labs, both blood and urine. And now if we go to females, I'll ask females, I'll say, okay, what's the kind of major hormone that dictates who you are physically, mentally? And most women will say estrogen. And then I'll throw a little just mind teaser for everybody. I said, let me ask you a question. Is estrogen a hormone? And they'll say, yes. I said, estrogen is not a hormone. And that's the biggest thing they've misled women on. Estrogen is not a hormone. It's not a hormone at all. Okay.
What is it?
Well, it's a name that represents many hormones.
Because a lot of women get estrogen injections, right?
You can't get estrogen injections. There's no such thing. See, they get estradiol, estrone, estriol. But see, that's the confusing part, because there's even more estrogens called your metabolites. There's conjugated and segregated estrogens metabolites there. And see, that's the thing. So when they look at, so then they say, oh, there's multiple estrogen ones. So which one is the contributing factor to my wife's endometriosis? Well, when I looked at her labs, they measured one of them. So I just have a simple question. Just like when you wanted to do something to walk into my offices, doc, what can I take to help my estrogens? Okay, which ones and what are the levels at? Well, I don't know. Then why would you ask me for a supplement or any kind of care without a complete picture of what's going on first?
Mm-hmm.
So how can we just because we have a product behind our shelf, how could we just want to give it to you with no plan to start, no plan to finish? You understand?
For sure, yeah.
No plan to maybe help you get off it. Maybe there's something better in a food form. Maybe these things. Where's the plan involved? See, I tell people this. Let's even use medication. Someone has a very high blood pressure, 210 over 110. There is a possibility for some bad things to happen. Does the doctor sit down and say, hey, Jerry, here's medication. Got to get you safe. Care about you. Don't want you to leave your family. Don't want you to go to heaven right now. You're too young and good looking and a lot to do. Okay. And you go, exactly. You go, yes, I got more women to date. I got a lot of stuff to do. Okay. It's like, but, and here's our plan to put you on. And then we're going to work to get you off.
Yeah.
That never happens. It's like, here it is. It's genetic. It's your grandpa's fault. It's your dad's fault. It's your genetics. And therefore you can be at the rest of your life.
Well, now that you say that, sorry to cut you off.
No,
I've had a lot of clients lately, that they're on Ozempic and that type of stuff. And I ask them, hey, how long are you supposed to be on that? And I haven't had one say, oh, this amount of time. They just say, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think that's misleading. I think that's but I'm going to actually have a little bit of criticism towards the natural field. Okay. But how long are you going to have them all the herbs? How long are you going to have all the supplements? How are you going to have them all this stuff that way? What's the overall plan? You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start giving people some decent plans. And that's why I think labs really have a way of dictating that. That's why lifestyle has a really good way of dictating a lot of stuff.
So what was the process of healing your wife? How
Labs.
many hormones did you take? How many?
No. So here's what happened. So the first thing is, once again, I said, listen, your testing is incomplete.
Yeah.
So I called up some of the largest labs in the world, a couple LabCorp guys. I said, hey, can we measure these? They said, yes. Why? And insurance doesn't pay for them. And I'm like, and I realized because when it's not standard of care, that insurance doesn't cover it. So most people and doctors won't even recommend it because they're liable for it. Okay. And so I said, I don't care. I have this beautiful girl that I want to marry and want to have a family with. And so therefore I ran the labs. I took money out of my pocket and paid for them, and then saw the things that were contributing to her hormonal imbalances that way, started to reverse that process. And then guess what happened? We started to see her conditions resolve. Okay.
Wow.
And we're talking also even pre and post imaging. Okay. Not just, hey, she's better and pregnant. No, once again, there were certain labs we did. There was ultrasounds. There was actually MRIs. There was all the other diagnostics to do to see those changes and stuff, And so therefore, that's basically what I've done my whole career. It's like, just relieving somebody's symptomatology for a short time naturally doesn't show any big progress. I think that's why I think I'm so infatuated with labs and testing and all new technology that can monitor that stuff. And then we just, then of course, then we started dating, obviously, and we started dating, and then we got married September 28th, 2 years later. And then on our 1 year anniversary, we were in Hawaii, and my wife looked at me and she goes, "So, do you think we should try getting pregnant?" I'm like, "What a better place to get than try than Hawaii." And so my daughter was conceived in Hawaii, and it's kind of cool. And found out she was pregnant a month later, and it was kind of neat. And of course, then we had 3 other babies, so we have 4 daughters.
Oh, wow.
Mhm,
Congratulations. I love it,
mhm.
man.
Yep,
I love
yep,
it. And she was able to completely get rid of that? Like,
yep.
she's 100% fine?
Yep, even post-diagnostically, ulcerative colitis is gone, endometriosis is gone, and see a lot of people right now, and I watch these endometriosis groups that women are suffering really bad. It can never go away. Okay, then say my one case is anecdotal, but then I have thousands of anecdotal cases through practice through 26 years and hundreds of doctors that we have and things like that. It's like, and I understand people hold on to their conditions like it's part of them. And
Mm.
it's like, and just because their doctor said, well, guess what happens? Your doctor also said the COVID vaccine was safe and effective.
Oh my speaking of that, before I forget, is there anything that someone can do to if they've taken 1 or 2 shots
Sure.
to get it out of them?
Of course they can.
What can they
It's
do?
nattokinase, turmeric, brolamine, and also cod liver oil. And those things have been shown effectively in research to start to break down and remove the spike protein from their system.
And they could completely get it out?
They don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
See, there's not enough data to show that completely yet. So I wouldn't want to speak theoretically, possibly, and
Yeah,
stuff, but they have seen removal of it that way. I'm still big into making sure the immune system is normal because I believe that your body can deal with anything if the immune system is in a normal state.
for sure. And for your wife, um, so if someone has that, if a woman has that and they're not able to get any testing done, what are the basic things that they can do that could be contributing factors to help them uh, better that situation?
It's always lifestyle things. I would move people away from. I'd move people more to a high protein diet. I would make sure that sleep was good. I'd make sure exercise is good. Um, I make sure that your liver health is taken care of. That's why I want to see you do more of a higher protein diet, lower sugar diet, because hormones have a lot of conversion factors that happen in the liver. There's a lot of enzymatic processes that are needed from the liver. So liver health is very important for hormonal health. Sleep is very important for adrenal health when it comes to women's hormones. And exercise during the right times is very important. Not having too much body fat is important. Above a certain body fat percentage is very important. You don't want to be too low, but you also don't want to be too excessively because that can contribute to it massively. So it's just it all comes down to this. It all comes down to lifestyle things. It really does.
Okay. Okay. And what is menopause, brother? I was in the other day, I went to a place, Peak Nutrition, where I go in Phoenix, and this guy in there, Orencio, he was trying to help this lady with her menopause. And he said they were there 40 minutes looking up things online and they couldn't figure anything out. And then I said, man, I don't know, probably go to the wellness way. So he checked you out and then he's been just sending women over there because he said they couldn't find anything. And I asked when I went, and the doctor that was working at your clinic, she said, yeah, what is menopause first? And then what can women do for menopause?
Well, if we look at for a let's always go the totally opposite first. Look at the stage of man. A young man before his puberty is prepubescent, and then we hit puberty and we can maintain good testosterone levels and things the rest of our life. It's just really two stages of life. Women have another stage of life. They're prepubescent, then they hit puberty, and then they transition out of puberty into what's called menopause, which is just a state of a hormonal shift. The estrogens and the progesterones and everything change, and they go lower, and they don't have to maintain certain sex characteristics for fertility anymore. So it moves them out of a non-fertile state. But what happens is this: it's a normal stage of life. But then why is it treated like it's a disease? Well, it's because most women don't know how to take care of themselves, not by their own knowing. It's just because they've been misled by their doctors. So by the time they get to menopause and transition, hormonal health is horrible. They're highly inflammatory. They're nutritionally deficient. They don't know how to take care of themselves well. Their adrenals are usually, adrenal insufficiency. And now they transition and other organ systems have to compensate. And it can't because it's in a weakened state. So they think menopause is almost like a disease. It's not. It's just a stage of life where you move out of the fertile years, but they don't teach women how to actually maintain good sexual health, good vaginal health, good breast health, and that's why they post fertility years in the menopause, they actually are end up with so many illnesses and problems that are there. They don't take care of their hormonal health, which is so vitally important because your levels drop to a non-fertile level that way to maintain some of the sex characteristics you do have. Good vaginal health, good breast health. But obviously, because of all the problems they end up with, that's why women end up with so many health problems in menopause. So they actually treat it like it's a condition.
Okay. So what are like basic things a woman can do?
I always come back to this, just like your experience at my one clinic.
Yeah.
Without proper testing,
Yeah.
everything else is a guess. You understand?
Okay.
Because I want to see, are some of your foods inflammatory? Do you have any microbial overgrowth? Do you actually have hormonal deficiencies or excesses? That all comes from labs. And you know what's really funny? Labs are universal to all professionals. If somebody sees estrone extremely low in a woman in the menopausal years, they're like, that woman's going to suffer. Now,
Yeah.
how we deal with it will be different. They're going to want to jack them up on HRT. We have a different approach to it that way. But labs are universal. No one's going to look at somebody's vitamin D levels being low or estrone or estradiol or testosterone levels low and tell them it's okay. The
See,
approach may be different, but see, that's why labs are the most important thing that anybody can possibly do.
yeah, that's what he told me, that that's all they could find online pretty much,
Yep.
is that HRT was the only option.
Well, if you think about it this way, um, the people say that there's the only option act like there's the only thing because they don't know anything else.
Mhm.
And so therefore it's like this. That's like, well, guess what happens during the pandemic? They also said the COVID vaccine was the only thing they could do. You saying? People act like medicine owns the human body or owns the right to all opinions on healthcare. I think with them being the third leading cause of death and all of the lies and corruption that comes from it, I'm not saying there aren't some things that could come well out of it. I'm just saying time to not tell me that's all that can be done.
For sure. Yeah, because even in my daughter, like I've seen over the past year, just huge jumps, and
Yep.
a lot of parents, they're confused because they're like, why isn't my kid advancing? Because the doctors told me that my kid's just fucked and that this is genetic, and then that's it.
Yep.
And it's just, and they fight to the death on that, and they're like, no, there's nothing that we should do. We should just accept them how they are, instead of like understanding, like, hey, what options are there? Like, let's try what we can.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, and fiber is this because remember, even you grew up in the era because I'm a little older than you, but all of us we grew up in the era. Just going to talk about this, and I know people get very this is a very sensitive topic, but thank God COVID changed that. Is if you talked about questioning vaccines at all in my generation, even sometimes today, they think you're crazy. Obviously, COVID vaccine helped with that because they showed how much lies and corruption, how much stuff is surfacing, that whole they've actually lied to our public for a long time. But here's the point: is when you actually start to question those, and now you make those different changes because you have a different perspective on it, and you start doing different things, they're surprised the results you get. It's like because it's really funny because I've had people come in and say, "Well, my doctor told me it's genetic," so then we help them recover, and I look at them and said, "Well, thank God I changed your gene pool." Now, see, and everybody laughs. It's like, well, they know it's not possible.
Yeah,
But see, here's what happens. Whenever a doctor tells you that genetics contribute to it, what they're saying is that you have no control. And
mm,
there's no aspect of the human body that you don't have some influence on, from the brain to your big toe.
for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody the other day, and their kid is really high on the autism
Mhm.
spectrum, and I said, "Hey, are you still?" First, we talked about diet and everything, and then I
Right.
said, "Are you still, getting your son shots?" He said, "Oh yeah, all of them for sure." And I
Mhm.
said, "Well, you might want to check."
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know, but you just might want to check. But they're just,
They're programmed.
it,
See, we're all
it's
programmed. See, remember, most people like you're anti-vaccine. I'm like, well, let me see a question. Everybody was pro-vaccine because they've been conditioned since they're little so that they're good. No, there's no such thing as anti-vaccine. You said it's like what comes down to is this: we're anti-medication that you're pushing on everybody and acting like it's a normal thing. You
for
say it
sure,
just doesn't make any sense. So actually, everybody I know was this pro-vaccine, and they usually actually had some bad experience or something went wrong and now they start to research. Think this way: a vaccine's still a medication. If we said to everybody that you had to be on this medication every day the rest of your life, and if you wouldn't, you couldn't be healthy, everybody would look at you like crazy. But if you just change the word the vaccine, it sounds like it's the, what happened is this. It's like it came down with the 10 Commandments,
Mm,
and
mhm.
thank God we realized that really came, from a whole different realm, but that's a different realm. A little hotter down there. But anyways.
And, okay, so I wanted to ask you about hyperbaric oxygen chambers.
Yep.
What do you know about those? Are they good?
I have one. They're fantastic. I think if anybody's on the autism spectrum, it's going to put pressurized oxygen in the tissues that need to get it. I think I've been in practice for 26 years. I've been in the natural healthcare field for 34, 35 years.
Yeah.
A lot of technology. I always love this. All the integrative doctors, every year they come up with all these new gadgets and everything, and 90% of them go away. I got my first hyperbaric chamber in 1999.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Do you know how much it cost?
How
You're gonna
much?
laugh about this. $2,000. Now the
Oh,
same
shit.
exact one is $40,000.
I bet.
Inflation did not go that much. Actually, believe it or not, the autism business made it go up dramatically and
How
stuff.
much how much is if someone wanted to buy one, what is the lowest, the cheapest price
Ten
that
grand.
is actually decent? Oh, really?
10 grand. Yeah. There's good ones out there for 10 grand. We just purchased another one for 130,000 and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But that's a fully metal. You can sit, multiple people can sit in it, stuff like that. It's like, and I don't do them at the offices. I just have it personally and stuff like that and everything. So it's like, I believe that people should go with them. I think there's wonderful people out there, integrative doctors, hyperbaric chamber places. I think that if anybody is on the autism spectrum, especially severe children, they should go in them. They're very beneficial for all tissues, including the brain.
Now, is there a specific? I was because I don't know a whole lot. I probably sound stupid
Mhm.
asking,
No.
or because I don't know. But I was looking at the ATA. That's the
Yep.
pressure, right?
Pressure. Mhm.
What's the lowest pressure and what's the highest pressure someone on the spectrum should be in?
Well, that I can't give you because here's the opposite. It's no different than a supplement. Because if I say even the lowest pressure and somebody does it and they have a reaction, they can legitimately. It's
Okay.
really funny. A lot of people will ask me questions online. Hey doc, what do you recommend? I can't recommend things because here's what happens. Then I'm liable, and I should be
Okay.
liable. You understand?
Okay. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
said. So I'm very particular about that. But I would say this: if the person it has it, if a person has one out there for use in a clinic, in a hyperbaric chamber, just even they might have 6 or 7 there. They have trained professionals that know what to do and do a proper history and make sure they're putting them in the right place and stuff like that. So yeah.
Now, on yours, for example, do
Mhm.
you use the mask or because I took her to one the other day
Yep.
and we were just in the chamber with no
With
mask.
oxygen.
But then the more I've been looking
Mhm.
into it, but
Use it.
I don't know. It was saying they were saying that it's better if you have the mask and
It
you're
is.
inside.
Yeah, just more pure oxygen. It is. It
But
should
if you
is.
don't, you still get great benefits.
Great benefits. Remember when they first started, they didn't have the oxygen masks and stuff like that. I remember I had the old small zip up one that was rubber and stuff like that, and that was my first one in 1999 and stuff. And it's just as effective today as it was when I bought it.
Okay, cool. Okay,
Yep.
thank you very much. And
Yep.
now, what about methylene blue and red light therapy? Is that good too?
So I'm a huge fan of red light therapy. I think it's fantastic. I
Yeah.
think the effect it has on mitochondria is absolutely incredible. Um, Methylene blue, I think, once again, I'm going to piss off most of the TikTokers and stuff like that. Is like, is there clinical benefit? Yes. Um, I think just like a lot of things, what they're going to do is this. It's a craze right now. Um, if you have normal mitochondria, it can hurt you. And, a lot of people have bad mitochondria. That's why I see a benefit. So it's
How can you find out if you have no mitochondria?
no, have damaged mitochondria. If you had
Oh.
no mitochondria, you'd be dead and stuff like that.
I
You
thought
know,
you said if you had no.
no, if you had damage, if when you have mitochondrial issues that way, that's when people it seems to have some benefit.
Okay.
Um, but I'd rather go towards red light therapy than I'd actually do methylene blue. So I'm just a little concerned about methylene blue, especially the overuse of it. And whenever you'll never hear me say that fish oil is good for everybody. You'll never hear me say that Bacopa is good for everybody because there's going to be people that have a bad reaction to it and stuff. And that's why I tell people, I said, yes, the vast majority of people can handle nutritional things, but there are certain herbs that could literally put people in a really bad place and stuff like that. So it's like, so that's why when you get things like methylene blue, because somebody prominent uses it and tells you something good about it, I still have some concerns about it.
For sure.
Mhm.
Okay. And okay, what about necrosis?
Yep.
That's when your cells are dying
Die.
off, right?
They're actually dying off. Yep.
I was talking to a lady at my daughter's school the other day. She got a knee surgery for like the
Mhm.
third time, and she said now she has necrosis, and the doctor said she's pretty much fucked. Is there anything something can do about that?
Well, it depends how damaged the tissue is. Sometimes, there is permanent damage that they need surgery and they need replacement, and sometimes tissue can regenerate. It just depends what stage it's at. Um, I kind of giggle when I see people walk around on their knees and say they have bone on bone. If you had bone on bone, you wouldn't be moving and
Yeah.
stuff. So, but there's some joints that can regenerate, and there's some that, for example, the degeneration is too much and you might need a replacement.
Okay.
Mhm.
And nicotine.
Mhm.
Is nicotine I've heard a lot of stuff lately that nicotine's good for autism, that nicotine's good for this and that and blah blah blah. Is nicotine good in your opinion?
Once again, in specialized cases, put it this way, nicotine is in the same category as a B vitamin and stuff like that. Um, most, if you look at the history, and this is going to, now remember, I have to set this up because I know somebody's going to clip this. And so that's all I'm just going to say. Please watch the full thing that I say here. If you go to the history, tobacco has always been a longevity food. Okay.
Mm,
Let me say it again. Tobacco has always been known as a longevity food because of the nicotine and things that are involved. It's just that our current form of tobacco has over 100 different chemicals and 100 different carcinogenic things in there to where it becomes very negative. Okay. If you even look at the incidence of smoking and lung cancer, it's not that much higher. Do you know what I'm saying? It's
yeah.
actually it's now remember, I'm not saying smoke. I'm not saying this. Okay, so I'm making very clear about this.
For
Okay,
sure, yeah,
but
yeah.
but you look at tobacco and things like that, and so therefore the nicotine that they're drawing from it, there are major health benefits from it. Um, there's people that have the pouches that don't have all the junk in it and made with coconut and things like that have some major benefit for it. And there's certain psychiatric things and mental clarity and depressions and anxieties and autism that can benefit for it as long as it's done properly and not overdone. And so it's like that's where people always try to take things out of context. That now someone's going to clip this and say, Dr. Flynn says, give all the kids autism, have them smoke some doobies or something. That's not what I said. you know, so you know,
There's always some fucking idiot that'll do something like that, man.
yes, because they want too much of a general question that nicotine's be good for everybody. That's not true. Guess what happens? Meat is not good for everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Mm,
I know people that can react to it. I know people that can react to a salad and break out in hives and actually have an anaphylactic reaction. So that's why I'm very particular about individuality of a case.
for sure. Does
Mhm.
blood type have something to do with that?
That I'll say it's a bunch of crap.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna say it out, bunch of crap. Everything
Oh,
about it's a bunch of crap. It's like it's. I even love when the Eat Right for Your Blood Type book came out. I read it, and in the first page, I knew it was bogus because it said, for thousands of years, we figured out blood type in 1941. I think it was or 45. Don't quote me exactly on the date. And then we actually found out that there's Rh positive and Rh negative. That saying it's just all crap. Your blood type doesn't respond to your foods. Your immune system responds to your foods.
and
So it's
I've
like
heard that a bunch of places where, oh, if you don't, you need a special diet for. Oh, okay.
no.
Wow. Okay.
Well, here's what happens. People do this. People eat like crap, and it limits you to what you can eat. And people are like, oh my goodness, I do so much better. Yeah, because Oreos weren't accepted on your blood type. Twinkies weren't accepted on your blood type. Your Dairy Queen wasn't accepted on your blood type. Wow, you're a genius.
100%. Yeah, the other day I picked up my daughter from school, or last day, and she had some Oreos in her pocket,
Mhm.
and she knows we don't eat that shit.
Yep.
And she was like pointing at her, but she was a little bit off that night. I
Yep.
noticed because I write down every day what she eats, but so that
Yep.
all that stuff has a huge effect, man, especially
Oh,
when you
sure it
cut the
does.
shit out.
Yep. Yep. And so that's why so I think Eat Right for Your Blood Type works because if you are a standard American diet and you limit yourself to some good proteins, some good things this way, yeah, you're going to see a benefit and you're going to jump on there and say, this book changed my life. Well, it just got you from getting away from bad habits that has really no validity behind it.
For sure. And what about parasites? Is that real? I hear a lot of people talk about parasites, parasite cleanses.
I'm going to get a parasite just talking about it right now. So here we go. Okay, here's what happens. Now, let's just forget me being a chiropractor, okay?
Yeah.
My whole background, pre and post education, was immunology, okay, and nutrition, but immunology was a major focus. Even my Harvard classes I still take today are all focused on immunology and vaccines and things like that. Here's my point, okay? We have, well, we all know this, okay? Because now everybody knows this. 20 years ago, they thought you're crazy, but we all have a microbiome. We all have layers of bacteria. See, everybody knows it now. That's why probiotics and fermented foods. Yeah, but let me ask you a question. What about your viral? And people are like, what's that? We have normal viruses. Do you understand chickenpox is supposed to be a part of us? Actually, guess what? So is COVID. Do you understand? If you look at what they do to our body. But guess what we do also do have? We have normal parasitology. Okay, so I got a simple question for you. Let's take streptococcus. Okay, have you ever heard anybody have strep throat before, Jerry?
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Did we just magically come in contact with some strep from the outside and we got inside of our body? No. What happens is this. We have a certain threshold. So we have a cup full of strep of us. If it goes over and starts overflowing, it's considered an infection.
Mm.
Now here's what happens this. Do we have parasitology? Yeah, we have about a cupful. Now I'm making just a simple analogy. And therefore, if it becomes a cup and a half, now be considered a parasite infection. So this concept that, oh my goodness, we're just loaded with parasites. No, just like any fungal infection, any bacterial infection, any parasite, any virus, if you're immune deficient, you're going to end up with infections of everything. So the concept of parasite, it's because of ivermectin, and now they're seeing problems with people taking so much ivermectin now too. And I'm not saying ivermectin doesn't have some benefits, just like methylene blue, just like any medication can have some positive benefit. But going to the masses, remember that's why I'm very frustrated with the whole COVID thing. But they mass vaccinated a lot of people, and they couldn't hide all the detriment. You see,
For sure.
so yes, so that's why it's like the concept is all this parasite stuff. I just shaking my head at. I don't even know what parasite cleanse is. What does that mean? Somebody tell me what that means.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Like online, I see a lot of people like it's always promoting some product, right? And
Which I'm against.
there's all I know you are. I love that.
Mhm.
And you see these pictures or these videos of these people. It's in their shit. They're in the bathroom, and there's like all these like worms and shit in their shit. So is that bullshit? Is that
No. I've actually legitimately had people have worms in their body. I'm not saying there can't be a parasite infection.
Yeah.
It's just not as common as everybody's thinking it is. Okay. Well, here's what happens this. If I poop and I have corn in my poop, do I have a corn infection? You understand? And sometimes I want to poop them out anyways because it doesn't belong there. And I'm not saying once again that parasite infections, worms, hookworms, viruses don't exist. I'm just saying that when you are trying to relate one specific thing to all these conditions, you've already lost. I just had this question the other day. Will they ever find the cause of this? No, because there's no such thing as one cause. It doesn't exist. There's not one adult person, unless you are. Now, watch this. If I walk outside and somebody hits me by a car, the car was the cause of all my broken bones. Okay? That's the exception, not the rule. Most people have multiple factors that contribute to why somebody's immune deficient, why they have an infection, why they actually have cancer, why this way. And so therefore, when they're trying to relate parasites to everything on the body now, and it's like they're trying to say A and then they have X, Y, Z, and they're trying to relate to everything that way, it's very frustrating. Okay. And because you may think A was the parasite, and really the parasite came around about J because you were immunocompromised at F, and really something at A, B, C happened way before that. Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah, and
It's,
I see that a lot with is in the autism community. They're like, "Oh, my kid had parasites, but I took this product, I gave him this product, and now they're 100%." Like I see that all the time.
yeah, and I'm not saying that something like that can't happen.
Yeah.
It's just that you're talking about the exception, not the rules. It's like this. It's like I always come back to this. Everybody publicizes the exceptions of everything. They really do. For example, I said this. This is just me. This is just me. Okay, I'm pro-life.
Yeah.
Okay, it's me.
Mhm.
All right, just me. All right, I believe that life happens at conception, so I'm pro-life. Now, here's what happens. And if we look at statistics when it comes to abortions, the vast majority, 98% plus, are actually just basic birth control. Okay, and because instead of when the minute I say I'm pro-life, the person goes, "Well, what about rape and incest?" Okay, but let's say the general things. We'll talk about the exceptions later, but the general things. Wouldn't you agree with me that you're just having sex and don't want to take responsibility?
Mhm.
Okay.
100%.
Now we can talk about the exceptions and we can
Mhm.
kind of talk about them and kind of discuss them a little bit. Okay. But when they generalize everything, like everything's a parasite, everything's this way, I have a hard time with that because, and then they tell you about the exceptional thing that changed. I can show you a lot of people that took parasite stuff and nothing happened. You say, and I'm
Mhm.
not saying the stuff they took was bad for them. I'm just saying they weren't on TikTok telling you that their third, finger that they cut off grew back because they got rid of their parasite.
For sure. For sure. I saw you the other day on a video. You said that there's some organic foods that you wouldn't touch. What are they?
Yeah, because here's what happens. It's still there's still things that I know, from a standpoint of irritability and things like that are still difficult for people to digest and everything that way, and it's more to do with you know it's kind of like this. Do you understand that the vast majority of people will do better cooked food than raw food?
Mm,
Okay. Because why? Because cooking just predigests it. Now, for all of my, purist friends that talk about that cooking loses nutrients, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree that there's a lot of foods. There are foods like tomatoes that you can't even get the nutrients out unless you cook them. You say,
mm.
to make good salsa, you need to cook the tomato first, let it cool, and then make it. Because if you just blend up a tomato, you don't get the nutrients. You lack most of the lycopene that you want to get from it that way. You
So
need
if
to
you
cook a
just
tomato
eat a
first.
raw tomato, you're not getting many
Nah,
nutrients from it?
it's really not beneficial.
Oh
It's really a
shit.
filler
I've been
and
giving that
stuff.
to my daughter, man.
Yeah. Well, remember, there's certain things that once again, now if you take garlic and cook it, you actually do it more damage than doing it raw. You understand? So there's
Mm.
certain foods that you unlock its potential by cooking. Now, digestive wise, everything digests easier cooking. It's like that's why if you ever see people, oh man, I can't do raw cauliflower, I can't do broccoli. Yeah, you might have some digestive issues, and so you might have to just do it more steamed, and you have no problems. And so he said, so what it comes down to is there's just you know you'll never see me have soy. You say you just won't. It's
Why is
just
that?
that I'm just concerned, organically or not. I'm still just concerned about some of the things it does to us. That's the physiology behind it.
Is that
Um,
as a man or women
just in
or
general,
just in
just in
general?
general.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just certain phytonutrients that I believe that can just interfere with certain pathways that I just don't like.
Yeah.
And so therefore, and yes, I want you to whatever you do, I want you to do the best processing, the best sourcing, the most minimally processed things possible. There's certain things I just like. I don't care how good they do it. I just can stay away from it. It's like this. It's like I'm a big medicinal mushroom fan, but I'm not going to have you eat a poisonous mushroom just because it's organic.
Makes sense.
Hmm.
For
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
Now, what about teeth, man? I've had a bunch of teeth knocked out. I got hit with a
Yep.
bat, and I've got implants. I've got root canals, and
Mhm.
I've heard root canals are really, really bad recently. Is that true?
Okay, let's talk about the exceptions, not the rules. Okay.
Yeah.
I go to a very great biological dentist. They approach dentistry very differently. Okay. Now, when you look at doing a root canal, there is a chance that it can get infected. And because of those canals, the immune system cannot get to it and clear it out. Therefore, there's a constant immune stressor. And therefore, they can get infected. They can stay infected. They can cause major immune problems. They can cause high inflammatory problems. And a lot of people have issues with them, but a lot of people don't. You understand? So
Mm-hmm.
to generalize that all root canals are bad, I think is an over exaggeration. But to actually act like they're good is actually an over exaggeration too. So that's why a lot of people can have them pulled and do better health wise, and some people have root canals and they have zero problems with them whatsoever. See, and no one's going to tell you who is going to respond good and who's going to respond bad. You know,
And what
and
about implants?
um, once again, I had a dental student that had maxillary surgery and actually had titanium put in his face, and he was allergic to it. And he was having some major healthcare problems, and no one could figure out. And I ran heavy metal tests on him, and he was allergic to titanium. he brought to his surgeon and said, we have to take all this out. And they did, and he got better.
How long after did he realize it wasn't right away, the
Reactions?
the reaction?
He couldn't even correlate to it. He wouldn't even know it was from his face and
Wow.
stuff like that. But what happened is his overall health was declining. But here's the point. There's people that titanium to them is no different than a bone and stuff like that. And so therefore, there's people that put metal implants on. Now they also have non-metal implants that are a little bit safer, more expensive, and stuff like that. They're made with more like a stone that they put in. A lot of dentists still do those. Even orthopedic surgeons do those. But some people have titanium ones, and they have zero problems with them that way. Now I know some in Chinese medicine, it might affect some electrical activity. It does happen within the facial area that way, and that does happen. But once again, there's everything you do that moves you away from a normal state. There's always chance of disruption, and there's also a chance your body adapts to it quite well.
Man, okay, as I listen to you speak and I watch you speak, how the fuck do you have your mind like so clear with all this information? Like, do you meditate? Like, what do you do? Because it's impressive. Like, how can one get to that? And I know you have a lot of experience, but like, what do you do like for your mind?
It's funny you asked it because I've been talking about this a lot with a lot of my docs, professional staff. Because remember, I have hundreds of staff members, and I have hundreds of doctors and everything. And I tell people, I believe in the morning is a very important time, and I don't call it meditating because meditating is like clearing your mind. I actually think that's totally opposite. I don't think you can clear your mind. I think that when you actually sit down, and this is just me personally. So to all my Christian friends, this is me personally. It says, be still and know that I'm God. Okay. And then do you ever know if you're still that you have a massive fight going on inside your head constantly? And a lot of people are trying to quiet the voices. I'm saying don't quiet them. Have the greatest conversation. So no one bothers me in my morning because I do what I call just my morning prep. I sit back and I have those battles inside my head and stuff like that. And that takes courage because I always tell ladies, I said, ladies, if you ever knew what went through our head in a day, you would probably stay as far away from us as you possibly could.
For sure.
And see, every man laughs like that, but even women do.
Yeah.
Women actually, for some reason, they feel horrible because they're like, I want to punch this bitch in the face that I work with that way. I'm like, okay, wrestle. So I got to meditate. No, don't meditate. You know what I'm saying? Sit back, have those conversations with yourself, and then go and tackle your day. And so therefore, and I have a prayer. I think this is why RFK and I, why I supported him financially during his campaign, why I love being part of the whole Maha movement, everything that way, was, for example, it's like, he gets up and he prayers, he says a prayer to God every day. Say, listen, hey, God, just, put the people in my life that I can help and do and assist and use me as one of a tool that way. And, and he's 72 years old, still doing it like crazy. And I'm 50 years old. I still go 100 miles an hour. I still don't slow down. I have energy like crazy. I believe it's because I take care of myself. I believe that, but what happens this, but I will say this, I have a peer interest in people that are looking for help. So therefore, I need to be prepared and have to be able to communicate these answers to people. So as I relay stuff to people, they're like, Doc, you make so much sense. You make me very calm. And that this. Yeah, because I'm going to give you the full spectrum of things that you're looking at. Everybody's looking for this one cause. Everybody's looking for this one end. Everybody wants me to say that you should never use it. Here, ask me about Ozempic. Just ask me, do I think people should use Ozempic? And I'm probably going to throw you off on my answer, but why don't you ask me that?
Should people use Ozempic?
Well, let's look at the extremes. If a person's 400 pounds, metabolic syndrome is not going to be good for you. It's just not. Metabolic syndrome makes cancer, diabetes, and every other condition you have worse. So therefore, if you use Ozempic for some time and lose 200 pounds, the negative side effects that you could get from Ozempic may be less of a risk than the reduction of the 200-pound weight that you could do. Now, a person that's trying to lose 30 pounds, I think that you're undisciplined. I think that you're using an excuse. I think you need discipline, not a medication. I think you need to sit yourself down and be consistent of your healthcare stuff that way. That's very different. See, so I'm not going to say don't use it. I'm not going to say use it. You know what I'm saying? It's like going, you have to look at each scenario differently. If somebody comes to me and says, oh, Doc, I'm 200 pounds, I want to get to 170. I'm like, toughen up, buttercup. get in the gym, bring your calories down, do it for about 6 months, and you lose your 30 pounds. Is it easy? No, nothing's easy. You say, well, Doc, I'm 400 pounds. Hey, maybe Ozempic. I can't tell you to be disciplined. You're 400 pounds. If you were disciplined, you wouldn't be 400 pounds. And it's not genetic. Okay. So therefore, you might need a medication to help you because you just don't have enough discipline right now. And if we get 200 pounds off you and then get you to be disciplined, you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So you always have to look at it that way. And so I'm trying to help people get where they want to go. And everybody wants, and when they come to people like us, they've been through so many frustrating things. I'm going to do everything I can to get you to a good state of your life. If you're poor, let's teach you what real capitalism is. You say, what's real capitalism? Well, it's really simple. Here's what happens. To make money is so simple. To make money is so easy. Every teenager listening right now, here's what happens. You have an 18-year period and probably even 25-year period to make yourself so valuable that when your parents kick you out of the house or you're out of the safety net of college, guess what happens? Now the world says, what value do you bring? And if you bring value, we can exchange some value. That means I'm probably going to get some capital from you. Okay? But if you just think you're valuable because your mama said you're valuable your whole life and do not bring up your value, and you go to the world and my mama said I'm special. My mama said, okay, Forrest Gump. Okay, guess what happens? I don't care what mama said. You know what I'm saying? Or who's another one that water boy. Mama said.
Mama said, mama.
Guess what? Mama doesn't have to give you capital. So if you're not value, you ain't getting shit. Yeah. Okay. So I try to daily bring up my value. So my wife looks at me and says, that's a valuable man I want to stay with. My kids look and go, that's a valuable man that I want to listen to. My hundreds of employees, my people around me. And I said, listen, because then it doesn't matter. Then even as an employee, I said, listen, you want to make more money? Bring up your value. Because then I'm going to exchange my capital with you and I'm going to keep you employed and I'm going to give you more because you brought up your value.
What are the top 3 things someone can do to raise their value as a human?
Well, once again, it depends. If you're my wife, you have to be sexy, serene, and supportive.
Sure. As a man.
If you're a man, mind, muscle, and money. If you have your mind, muscle, and money together, women are throwing at you like Frisbees.
100%.
It's like, I'll grab this one, I'll grab this one. Do you follow me in that?
100%.
But guys like, I deserve a good woman. Really? You're a loser. You play games. You sit there on video games. You watch football. You sit there and waste your time. You make $40,000 a year. Trust
100%.
me. And in the Christian realm, here's what happens this. Women think they value a man of faith. And you should see how many women at church married to a loser, but he says Jesus every 3 words. They have no money. He's overweight. He doesn't do anything, but he shows up on Sunday and a girl feels bad because he sits there and she goes, oh, God, please take away my evil desires because when I see that man, I want to screw him, but I'm married to this douchebag.
Oh, 100%, dude.
Sorry. It's just simple.
I have that conversation.
Lord, please take the temptation away from me. Okay? It's like, no, I made you that way. Your husband's a loser.
Stop making me wet looking at these other guys, man.
That's right. Stop making me watch Jerry and Patrick's podcast. This ain't fair, Lord. So,
but before I forget, so when you sit down in the morning and do that with your thoughts, do you like observe your thoughts first, or what's your process look like?
I just be quiet, and you'd be surprised it pops in your head.
And do you take notes? What do you do?
Nope, I start to fight.
Okay. And you don't avoid anything, right?
Nope.
Okay.
Nothing. You said you avoid those. Remember, this is now you're gonna laugh about this because a big church called us out in California and said, hey, we have these big health events once every quarter. We'd like Dr. Flynn to speak there. And Aaron's like, yeah, Doc doesn't, doing too much traveling right now. This. And they said, well, if he comes out and speaks, we'll let him preach on Sunday. And Aaron's like, Doc hates church. Doc actually he makes fun of men that go to church every Sunday. He swears like crazy. They're like, yep, we love him. This. Okay. And the reason why I bring that up is because I get asked by people of faith all the time, and I am a person of faith, but here's the opposite. I just believe the church needs to be destroyed. I think it's horrible of today that way. It's not building men. It's not building families, things like that.
For sure.
And it's really funny because here's what happens. men struggle so much because if you think of it this way, men, I believe that God made men for war. It really has. And it doesn't, and war has obviously changed through the years. Do you understand? If I want to get up and be successful as a man, I have to raise my value and I have to compete, aka war, with other people that want to steal my wife, steal my money, steal my kids, steal my business. Do you follow me in that?
100%.
And so therefore, men think they're bred for peace. They don't realize that they're really bred for war. And on top of it, what they need to do is their thoughts are very, their thoughts are very intense. And men like to, no, I'm a follower of Christ. I won't have those. Actually, you're totally wrong. It's actually what you do with them and how you deal with them and how you deal with that war and how you approach it that way. And so, because, if you ever think of it this way, the two most common emotional responses men get, people think it's lust. It's not. It's actually anger and rage.
Mm-hmm.
Even testosterone does to it that way. So we have to battle that every day. So we have to go war with our thoughts right away. And that's how we get peace. You Sam? And men that don't prepare themselves for the day, now all of a sudden they go to the world, they're not prepared for it, and they're an emotional wreck.
Oh my God. That's fucking common, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Men whining all over the fucking place.
Yep. So just sit back, guys, and no matter what thought comes to your head, but I want to punch this guy at work. Yeah, welcome to being a man.
Almost daily, I want to break someone's jaw, dude. Sometimes,
and that's why I think therapy for a man is so ridiculous. Tell me how you feel. No, you know what I'm saying? A man cannot act on his feelings. That's why he has to wrestle with them right away in the morning. Because if we acted how we felt, no matter what our faith is, then we would sleep with every hot girl. We would actually do disgusting things. We would steal. We'd hurt people if we did what we felt every single day. No, just by having Christ in your heart, that goes away. What the hell are you talking about? You're not, that's a woman speaking to some guy acting like we're them. No,
100%.
we're not, girls. Trust me. If your husband told you his thoughts in the morning, you would divorce him and you would run away and you'd probably become a lesbian.
100%. And I see men all the time where they just can't get their emotions together and they're freaking, and then their kids are right there watching them. And I'm like, dude, hey, take a fucking breath. Your kids are going to think it's normal how you're acting. I don't give a fuck if someone dies. It's sad. It's part of life, but you got to get your shit together, motherfucker. You got to be the one that's handling the shit. When my mom passed away, I took her dead stiff in my arms to the hospital, walked her over there and still did the paperwork. We did the morning. Here in Mexico, they do it all a little different. They kind of, and, still nice, still kind to people that's stoic, what I didn't, I wanted to cry, but I cried on my own time,
There's nothing wrong with that. I cry. I get angry.
100%.
I actually have, I do it in the morning. I do it.
100%.
I have these bad. So that's why people say you're holding in. I'm not holding anything. I'm doing totally opposite. You know what I'm saying? I'm actually doing totally opposite. It's just that men need to learn to wrestle that with themselves. It's like, and then, and that's where today, relationships, these guys that say you need to be open and vulnerable to your wife. No, you don't. You want to scare them? Be open and vulnerable to them. You know what I'm saying? It's like you want to put them in a sick, health, stress state. Do that to them. So
cry every night. Tell them how hard life is.
Yes. They would rather see you, come out victorious that way on that instead of that. It's like, oh, I want you to be vulnerable with me. No, you don't. Okay, I'll be vulnerable with you. Your best friend who's really hot. I want you guys to kiss, and I want to sleep with both of you. There, I'm vulnerable to you.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, honestly, every guy laughs like crazy when I say stuff like that because they're like, yep, I've thought that before. And it's like, okay, oh, honey, maybe you shouldn't be vulnerable with me anymore. Okay.
Oh, man, I love you, dude. You're a cool motherfucker, man. Thank you.
Yeah, people think it's because I've had a level of success in business. It's like, but something, personal and business, there is no difference. That's why, do you understand the whole concept of it's business, not personal, came from looking down at people, not standing next to people. Because here's what happens. If somebody gets fired and it's their livelihood, it's personal to them.
Yeah.
You saying?
100%.
That's why, once again, yes, there has to be a hierarchy. This concept of, egalitarian or equality is not true. There is no equality in my company. There is not. Actually, I promote inequality. Here, I'll prove it to you. Here's what happens this. There's no woman more important to me than my wife. If Erin, who's my brand manager, if she's equal to my wife, I'm going to have some problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But let's even do this. Erin being a manager, she has a team. If I treat her equally to I treat her staff, which are my employees, she's not going to respect me as much because she's brought up her value to be that brand manager. So therefore, how is she equal to the people that are underneath her? She's not. There's
Mm-hmm.
always a hierarchy. It has to be a hierarchy that way. You
For
see,
sure.
because there's a set of responsibilities. Because the higher you go up in the hierarchy, the more responsibility you have. The more responsibility you have, the more authority you have to have. You see,
100%. Of course.
and that's why I think our world. That's why if you think of it this way, that's why the patriarchy works so well. Because a real man will say, "Listen, I'm responsible. Money, everything. I'm responsible." Okay. And of course, then the whole feminist movement says, no, you're downplaying women. Yeah, you know, something to say is this. I actually have a staff member who's awesome. Her husband's a pastor. They don't pay him crap. And I looked at her the other day and said, if I give you $1 million, and she's pregnant right now and has twins at home. I said, if I give you $1 million, what would you do? She goes, I'd stay home. I said, exactly. That's the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
100%.
Because I'm not saying that if I give you $1 million and now your kids get a little older and now you want more purpose because your kids are good. You've raised them good. They're on their thing. They're becoming great young people. They don't need you as much. Now you can go work in purpose. You know what I'm saying? And so
100%.
therefore, that's what I believe a patriarchy could do and stuff. A real patriarchy, you know. But once again, let's talk about the extremes. Feminism. Let's talk about the one guy who beats his wife and she had 9 kids and she has no money, and that's what you want to use for example. Well, why don't you just use incest then when it comes to abortion too?
Mm-hmm. 100%, man. Yeah, I've heard recently a lot of people telling me their wives are going to like feminist rallies and then they're coming home and telling them how much they hate men. And I'm like, that's a fucking problem. You're a man, bro. Like, that's a fucking issue.
You know, it's really funny. You know, lesbians say they hate men, yet their sex toys look like a penis.
Yeah,
So you don't hate them that much.
it can't. You can't.
We always have some fun, but it's really true. It's
It-
like vegans make everything look like a hamburger.
yeah.
You're really a meat eater. You're just trying to change that soy burger into a burger. You're really a meat eater. Just accept it.
Oh, they're gonna hate that.
And you think I'm joking? I'm like this with my staff all the time. I don't believe in HR bullshit and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, it's like because you know, is this all it is bringing in, you know, it's what this. It's bringing equality. There's no such thing as equality. Equality is a myth. See, there's equality of rights. There's not equality of actually how you get treated. I will never treat another woman the way I treat my wife.
100%.
I will never treat somebody else's kids the way I treat my kids. There's always inequality. You say him?
Yeah.
A government is meant to have people have equal rights, not equal opportunities. Okay. And we don't get all treated the same.
Now, and for your business,
Mhm.
did you envision having this many clinics, or like, do you believe
No.
in?
No.
So how did that happen?
It's like how anything happens. If you can solve a problem, you will be wealthy.
Yeah, but like you said after you had the one successful one, you started
It's kept on
people
coming.
started reaching out to you, and then
Yeah,
bam,
start
okay.
coming. And it's and more and more and more and more doctors and more people and more doctors and more people. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, I gotta start a brand. It wasn't like, you know something, God came down and gave me the 10 commandments on how to create this business. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay. I'm going to reset my value, make myself very, very good at communication, make myself very good clinically, make myself very good at people, make myself very good at these things. And I'm going to bring up my value. And then more people want to exchange value. That's what capitalism is.
What
See,
would you
capitalism creates better things.
for sure? What would you say contributed to how you learned how to communicate so well? Did you read? Did you go to places, or obviously
Yeah.
practicing it? But
No. Here's what happens this. Do you know what let me put it in a way that I think that relates to everybody. And I love this word. Empathy. Okay. Let me give you an example. I can put myself in the illegal aliens of Mexico's shoes, even though I'm a white European American. You know what I'm saying? I was born and raised here that way, so were my parents, but my grandparents weren't. Okay, here's the point. But here's the opposite of this. I can empathetically put myself into a person down their shoes. I can. Okay, I really can. And so therefore, I put myself in their shoes. Man, woman, child, Black, Mexican, Chinese, Japanese, everybody that way. And I put myself in their shoes and go, if I was there, so let me give you an example. Okay, so for all the people that hate capitalism, so let's say mostly Democrats, okay? So let's look at this. I'm going to pick Detroit or LA, Inglewood, or let's pick some very bad area, Compton. My daughters actually have much more advantages than you guys do. Okay, now let me explain. And to say that we're all equal is not true. We're not all equal. Now, the black people are like me a little bit more now, okay? Because here's what happens this. The black kid in Compton and my daughter in Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is totally different environments. And also this, my daughter's coming out of chiropractic school, she'll have zero debt. My daughter will start way ahead. So here's what happens. If we had to race 100 meters, my daughter's starting on the 80-yard line, they're starting on the 0.
Mm-hmm.
And now watch this though. If my daughter becomes a crack whore and the guy in Compton gets his shit together, he's going to surpass her. It will take him some time because she decided to live off of what Daddy did and didn't develop and bring her value. So she's going to go backwards. So she's actually going to go back to the 50-yard line and he's going to surpass her just because he brought value to the world.
And that happens.
But here's what happens with my daughters and people around me.
Yeah.
You're going to beat everybody that started at 0 because I'm going to take you to 80 and you're going to run faster than they get to the 100.
100%.
See, so what it comes down to is the fact is I'm empathetic going, you were sexually abused. You had horrible parents. You had all stuff like this. You have a different starting point. You have to work 1,000 times more harder to my daughter even to get to where she was. Yes, you have a disadvantage. That doesn't give you a right to take from somebody else that has an advantage, though.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see them? Because those people with advantage, if they're not grown up properly, they'll end up where you were, and their family has to start that way. See, and I've always said this, if you didn't come from a rich family should come from you.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
My daughters have so much more advantage than I ever had. You say, I grew up in a small town, poor, stuff like this. I had nothing. When I graduated college, I went to the poor neighborhoods and saw how great they were living. You say, that's how poor I was. And people say, well, Doc, you jump on the private jet. Yeah. How did I get that? It's called capitalism. It's called I brought my value up. So I looked at everything I did. So what made me valuable as a doctor? Okay, I had to be clinically excellent. Okay, that's why I constantly study. I had very different ideas. So I had to communicate and speak very valuable to people. So then I put myself in the mother who actually, the doctor, and you've experienced this, the doctor won't listen to them. So imagine what you would feel like if put yourself empathetically, put yourself in that mom's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've never experienced that, but I can understand that. So I believe that empathy could change everything. It really could. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
I understand that there was a guy in Massachusetts that was a 17-year-old kid that just got arrested from ICE because he's illegal. So I understand that there's going to be a lot of upset people because he's done nothing wrong to anybody. On the flip side, we are a country of laws. So therefore, there's things that we all have to follow, because if I got a speeding ticket and I was yelling, F the police, blah, 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 most people are like, dude, you're going 80 and a 55. You don't have the right to complain. You knew what the rule was. Do you follow me?
100%.
But now do this. Dunbar's law. We can only get by empathy to about 144 people. That's why community is bigger than 144. You know what? I don't really care about the kid in Massachusetts. You know why? He's not my Dunbar's number. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if they're in the Dunbar's number, you will actually, you know this. People that you're close to here, watch this. Somebody that had an impact on you. Okay, think about one guy that's had an impact on you, one man. Okay, now think about him for a second. Has he done everything right?
Fuck no.
No. But you see, if it's within Dunbar's number, you're like, yeah, I'll overlook that shit. Overlook that shit because he impacted me there. Now, so therefore, the kid in Maryland that just got arrested in his school at 17 years old, if you're within that Dunbar's number, you hate ICE. You got people like me going, we're a thing of laws. So I can understand why they're so upset, because he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong to you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. See, and that's a very common, like lately I've had issues with a lot of people because people we know in common, some of them are famous, et cetera, but they turn out to be a fucking child molester.
Yep.
And then they're like, well, they'll look past it because they've helped them out and because they're making money with them. And I got fucking morals. I don't give a fuck who that is or how long I known that motherfucker. If he's a piece of shit, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, but it's really funny is this though, because there's people that live on absolutes. Do you say it's black and white?
Yeah.
Most people live in Dunbar's number. Because watch this, your dad could be a drug user. Your dad could be in prison. You'll still go visit him. You still do these things. You're this because you know why? It's within that community that you do have. You're more forgiving within that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why if you ever look at it this way, that's why I tell people, don't be tribal, be empathetic. Because black, white, Mexican, Chinese, if you just do it, say, well, I'm going to take all Mexican as Dunbar's number. And so then when the border's wide open, you're going to be like, I understand. But then if you're going, okay, if you're an absolutist, you'll go, you broke the law. It doesn't matter if you're a child. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
If you go empathy, you can actually see both sides. I am empathetic for the medical doctor that sits here and goes, I so learned this in school and I learned that education was so good. And they even know that the vaccine companies and drug companies that are corrupt and they've been fined more than anything else, but they're within their Dunbar's numbers, so they kind of are forgiven for them because we do some good. We do some good. Do you know what I'm saying? Because some medications do good. And then they overlook all the other damaging. And then when a person challenges them and says, there's no research on vaccines, then they have to give up Dunbar's number. They have to give up what they believe to say it's okay and agree with them. And they'll say, your Google search doesn't mean anything over my degree. Do you see what I'm saying? So I have empathy for those doctors. You saying? I have empathy for the parents. So I think the reason why I became a good doctor is because when I was sick and my skin crawled and I had behavioral issues, nobody was empathetic with me. They said, you're a bad child. They said, you'll become nothing. They said, you're troubled. They said, you're going to be a juvenile, you'll be in prison. No one had empathy for me.
Yeah.
But you know who did empathy for me? My mom, my dad. They're like, he's a good kid. You don't see all the good parts. See, so was the school counselor right? Yep. Was my parents right? Yep. Can they both be right? Sure. Even though they see it totally differently. See, so I think empathy makes everybody better.
Is that that's where you learned your empathy was from your parents?
If you ask me how I learned it, I don't know. I think I learned more things through pain and struggle. I wrote something the other day because I was, I think that men have to have 70% of their day has to be rough and has to be painful and has to be struggle.
Yeah.
And stuff of that. I think that women and children are only two people that should be happy all the time and stuff. And I wrote something for my manager meeting yesterday. And because I think that let me pull that here. Here's what I wrote. A strong man is not built in peace. He forges in chaos. He's not always the loudest in the room. He gets quiet sometimes, grinding in silence, carries battles that no one sees. He doesn't run from pain. He walks through it, knowing struggle is part of the process. When life throws him storms, he does not turn his back on it. He faces the wind and rain, then continues forward. A strong man does not seek attention, applause, or approval. He seeks growth while others seek to be saved. He saves himself. He leads, he provides, he protects, he rises above. Discipline is his weapon. Consistency is his shield. His strength is not just measured in muscle, but in mindset, value, restraint, and how many times he has been knocked down but still stood back up. He's not perfect, but he's powerful. He's not fearless, but he's relentless. That's what makes him truly strong. I'm scared every day, Jerry.
That's good.
I have fear every single day.
Yeah.
You say, you think I am not scared every single day? Of course I am, every single day. But it doesn't stop me. I just keep moving forward. You say, and it's like, I'm not perfect, but I'm powerful. I'm not fearless. It's just they don't see it. Discipline keeps me as a big weapon, and I'm just consistent. That's all it is. You know what I'm saying? Storms happen every day. See, men have to have a tough life. Women have to know that life is tough.
100%.
You say,
yeah.
So
So you having daughters, all daughters, what kind of advice, what philosophies do you give to your daughters?
it's very simple. So here's what happens. They have a choice. They either have to enter the world or they have to have be under protection of man or both. Okay? So let me speak to all you guys, okay? So here's what happens. What's made capitalism and actually things so well is actually the patriarchy. It does. It's why we have what we have. And feminism has given us participation trophies. Feminist has given us, firemen that are women that couldn't carry me out of a house being 195 pounds. All these things that would not be acceptable if we just said no. Okay. And here's the point. So when you enter the world, if you look at the characteristics that make a valuable team, competitive, decisive, laser focused, aggressive, those are more masculine traits. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah.
So therefore, if you want to succeed in the world, you need masculine or feminine traits to compete on any business there is out there.
Mhm.
Okay. By far masculine. Now, you're wrong. Look at the women that actually succeed in the world. They don't use feminine traits unless it's OnlyFans. Do you follow me?
Yeah, for sure.
Because here's the opposite of this. They use their femininity to actually go after evil desires of men. But if it comes down, but even they have to compete. Women, you compete. That's why they're called fake boobs. That's why you go get the surgeries. You're competing with other women that can do other things like you. See, there's still those characteristics that make you good. So I tell my girls, if you're going to go out in the world, you need masculine traits to survive. Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure.
You have to compete with my daughter's going to be a chiropractor. You have to compete with the next chiropractor. What if he's a male? He doesn't care. When it comes to competition, we don't care. Okay? If somebody's going to compete with me in business, I don't care if you're male, I don't care if you're female, I don't care if you're black, I don't care if you're white, I don't care if you're Chinese. I'm going to destroy you because I'm going to win. That's what the world's like.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So therefore, don't play the female card like, oh, I'm a woman. You can't speak to me that way. In the world, you're not female or male. It's win or lose. Okay? Now, here's what happens this. Now, your husband doesn't want to marry a masculine woman. So bring out those feminine traits. So if you're a stay-at-home mom, you can stay more in your feminine traits. If you want to enter the world, you have to enter the world, be masculine. Then you have to turn around and want to have a good marriage. You better be feminine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they are. So my wife will teach them how to be extremely feminine, and I'll teach them and prepare them for the world. And how do I prepare my daughters for the world if they want to be a stay-at-home mom? Every guy that says hi to you and tells you look pretty, just think they want to touch your boobs. Told them since they're 12 years old.
Yeah.
You know it's true.
Yeah.
My teenage boy, he's a good Christian boy. The hell he is.
Yeah, I bet.
He thinks the same way that we all do.
Well,
It's called puberty. It's called testosterone. It's called, my two 16-year-olds, I trust them. Well, then you're a moron. Do you understand?
Speaking of,
yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, so therefore, what happens is this. A dad's job is to prepare a kid for the world. It's not the mom's job. A mom's job is to bring a child, boy or girl, from baby to childhood. It's a dad's job to prepare that little girl and little boy for the world. Now, if that little girl is going to be a stay-at-home mom and going to find a good man, it's their mom to teach them how to look for a great man. And usually they should just be able to point to the dad.
Now, what about a single mom?
Oh, do you want to get me canceled? Do you want me to get shot?
Come on. What about a single mother raising a boy? First,
it's a bad day. I don't trust a man that surrounds himself with women for advice. I don't trust a man that tells me his mom's his best friend. Because here's what happens: this. My mom's not my best friend, and I was just with my mom and my sister. They're both here and things like that. Actually, as a man, I now take care of my mom. I take care of my dad because I'm the age where you should start taking care of your parents, be responsible for them as they were responsible for you at one time. Okay. Yeah. So therefore, here's what happens: this. I mean it sincerely. I have extremely, extremely good women that work for me. You get to speak to one all the time, Aaron. You know, Sam?
Yeah.
Here's what happens: this. But I would never trust Aaron to raise her kids by herself. I wouldn't trust my wife to raise them by herself, because there's just, even you say, no, but Aaron, as a business person, brings out those masculine traits. But bringing those masculine traits to the world and teaching them to a young boy is very difficult. They couldn't even, it's even hard to be empathetic to even figure out what to tell a young boy, because here's what happens: this. Some kid is bullying your kid at school. A mom is going to teach a young boy what to do different than the man would teach a young man.
For sure.
And so therefore, it's just that, because here's what happens is here. Like today, the reason why I have not found a church that I would ever go to yet, because church is actually filtered through a female prism. That's why you see Jesus wearing a robe with a lamb or a child on his lap in every picture. Where have you ever walked into a church and see Jesus flipping a table and grabbing a whip? You
I
say,
haven't seen it. Yeah.
thank you. Yet us as guys would walk in and we'd be like, whoa. You saying? We'd be like, why do you think we love movies where you just kick the crap out of people?
For sure.
It's ingrained in us. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean that we're being violent either. Here we go. All the females say, look at men are so violent. Yes, men are supposed to be able to be violent. That's the only way you have peace. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way you have peace, is actually the knowing of violence. And women, watch this. I've had this happen. If all of a sudden there's 30 women outside my door protesting here because they don't like what I say, I'd walk out there with 30 women and say, bitches, get out of the way. You saying? Now, if there was 30 men out there standing there, my 9mm is going to be on my side, because I, even as a very strong man, will be scared a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you follow me in that?
Take the AK, man.
So therefore, guess what happens? This is when we look at how we're supposed to do things, that male prism, not only does that young little girl need to see that male prism, even though if they want to take care of a husband, they have to have that female aspect of that, but to actually go out and build value in the world. Because here's what happens. You know this as well as I do. You actually said, what does my wife need? Same thing you're looking for a woman. You're looking for them to be sexy. You're looking to be supportive of what you're doing. And you're looking to actually have serene, which is be peaceful. So when you go out and war all day long, that you don't have to come home to another freaking war.
100%.
Okay? The warriors want to come back to camp and be like, peace. You
Yeah.
understand? Now on the flip side, can you actually watch a woman say, yeah, I just want my husband to be sexy, serene, and supportive? See, you laugh because you're like, no, that guy better have some freaking muscle. He better not be fat. He actually better make some damn money, and their mind is sharp. Do you know what I'm saying? Because then I can get behind that guy. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I know I'm being protected. I know I'm being provided for. You know, men, and I added one more to this thing. I always said men were meant to be protectors and providers, but men were also made to be procreators. That's why men advance women. Women are like, I can't believe these guys approach me. It's ingrained us. We're supposed to be procreators. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so just say no. And see, that's why I tell men that are not working themselves in the morning, they'll use their emotions, and those are the bad guys. They'll get mad and they'll do something bad to a woman. Well, that's not us. Do you understand? I've been rejected a ton. You understand? And it's like, but then I really learned, man, that's why I tell young men, man, come and ask me this advice. Doc, I just want a beautiful woman. I want all those things in a woman. Then stop looking for it. Because all you have to do is develop your mind, muscle, money, and they'll come to you.
They'll come, yeah. Easy.
You stop chasing them. Let them come to you. But that means you had to bring up your value to society. And women are drawn to men of value.
Build a dope motherfucker. Yeah.
Yep.
So but what would you say though to a woman that's a single mother raising a boy and a girl? What could she do? What would you say? What are the best things she could do?
I have to have this conversation with my staff all the time. Sports for a young boy.
Yeah.
Sports, and actually have them find a real man to talk to.
Sure.
I do it all the time. I talk to a lot of my staff's kids all the time, the young boys, teenagers, things like that.
Good.
Because you know why? Because I'm going to give them perspective. I'm going to talk to them like a young man. I'm going to talk to them like when I was 16 or I was 15 or I was 12 or I was 18 or I was 20. I have to do it all. I just got a phone with one of my doctors that actually had a family problem. Like, tell your father-in-law to shut the fuck up and step up. You understand?
Yeah.
I spend more time talking personally to all of my staff and my doctors than I do clinically anymore, because growing individuals. So therefore is this. So I think that if you think of it this way, all those attributes that do make kids ready for the world, you can get in good competition sports. It's just that when feminism came along and said we should all have equal, it's actually female characteristics that gave participation trophies. It's actually female characteristics that said we should have all these people on teams. No, I think one of the greatest things for kids is actually that they have to try out for teams, and some of the coaches say, you don't make the team. Because maybe your gifts are not in football.
Yeah.
Maybe your gifts are in violin. I'm not joking. Maybe your gifts in this. And that's why when I see guys, here, watch this. How many here, think of it this way. Do you really think LeBron James is a good basketball player?
Man, I don't watch basketball, bro.
Neither do I. I don't watch any sports. I think it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But just for analogy purposes,
Yeah.
most exceptional athlete, their kids are not exceptional athletes. Do you follow me in that?
Yeah.
Stop trying to live. See, a job of a parent, especially a father, is to see the gifts in their kids and pull them out. I have 4 daughters. They're all different. If I were to look at my oldest daughter and say, my second daughter, so you should be more like your first daughter, you create daddy issues. I look at all my daughters, I look at all my staff, and I say, you have specific gifts. God gave them to you, not me. Let's work on them. Let's pull them out. That's what a leader, that's what a father, that's what a thing does. A mom nurtures those gifts. Do you understand?
Yeah.
A dad gets them out of people.
Yeah, you know, the other day I was talking to some clients, I was tattooing them, and she's got her new husband is the stepfather of her son. Her son's 16, and they were telling me that he was at, I think, football practice, and the coach was screaming at the son because he was fucking up, and she was about to step in, and he said, hey, shut the fuck up.
That's right.
And I said, good thing you have this man to do that. You would have fucked your son up doing that. You would have made him into a weak bitch by doing that. And that's what a lot of people are doing.
Well, and it happens, and that carries over to the world today. You saying? It's like, you know, I actually had to yell at one of my doctor's wives because she's more of a boss bitch, even though she stays at home. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. You don't talk to your husband that way. It's like, and the church actually just overpowers, gives women too much control over men's lives today. The Bible doesn't say shit like that. You're saying? And it's like, and so it's kind of funny. It's like going, I just sit there and go, no, you let them, guess what happens? That coach chewing his butt out may have saved him from doing something bad in business 20 years from now, or even 5 years from now. Do you understand?
For sure.
Because you have to respect authority. Do you understand that women have a hard time with this? Do you know that I've had conversations, I train about this too. I say, ladies, you will submit to me more than you submit to your husband. They're like, what? I'm like, I will tell you what to do. I'll say, go get me a cup of coffee. You run, get it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you're my authority. Well, here's what happens. That's because I'm responsible for the whole company. So therefore I have a certain level of authority over you because I'm responsible. Okay. What happens in the home? There's no equality in the home. Well, if there is, then you better make exact amount of money, take on things as this. And see, it's easy for women to speak now today like that to men because they're watching football games, they're playing video games, they make $50,000 a year, they watch TV at night. Do you understand? So they think there has to be equal stuff. But that's not, to me, that's not a man. I'm sorry. That's not a man.
Definitely not.
It's not.
Definitely
it's like,
not,
if your man is, if anything, once again, here's what happens this. And it's really funny. The entertainment business should not be so big. It really shouldn't. Do you understand?
Yeah.
How's entertainment being so large? All you real men out there, it's the greatest opportunity in history because if they're watching football every weekend, that gives you 4 to 5 hours a day to get ahead of them. That means they're starting at 0, you're starting at 80 and 100-meter race.
100. Oh, man, I get people that try to tell me stats all the time on sports, and I'm like, I don't watch any sports. I don't know what other fucking men are doing with their life. I don't know, unless I know one of them playing, I'll say, oh, I'll watch for a couple of minutes, but I'm not going to sit down and watch a whole fucking game. It's crazy.
Well, why am I going to watch you win when I'm a loser?
Dude, it makes no sense.
None.
It makes
0.
no fucking sense.
No. So I tell people, I said, this is like, it's like to all my Christian friends out there. Well, the day of rest is Sunday. Yep. And after 1 year, I'm going to be 52 weeks ahead of you or 52 days ahead of you when we're competing.
So you take no days off?
Well, here's what happens this. Let me ask you a question. When should I take off raising my value to my wife?
Never.
When should I take off raising value to my kids?
Never.
Everybody that depends on me for their job.
Never.
All the patients that are not getting answers, they need to come to us.
Never. 100%.
And here's what happens this. When I'm adding value to myself, people say, well, sometimes you just need to get away from what? The life you created? I'm running. I sometimes have to force myself because I take care of myself. I have to go to bed at 9. I have to force myself to go to bed because I want to keep on working on my beautiful life.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to hang out with my amazing kids at night longer, but no, they're women, they need sleep. Do you know what I'm saying? I want to get up too early and start my day. No, I need to take care of myself. You don't run from your life when you're building it. You know what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah.
If you're building a new house, you want to move in and you're waiting. You're just waiting. You're excited to be there and watch it be built. Well, that's what you got to look at your life like. That's why I look at my life like.
Speaking of sleep, my dad, he's 74 years old.
Mhm.
He's had 3 strokes. He's had a couple prostate surgeries, et cetera, et cetera. He cannot stay asleep all night. Is there anything someone can do for something like that?
Having a stroke, there's going to be some neurological issues that are related there. Where I would start, he's having hard to stay asleep. Does he fall asleep easy?
He can fall asleep, no problem, but he wakes up about 4 or 5 times throughout the night. And the doctors told him after the first stroke that he was fucked. And the second, and they said he was going to lose half of his body. And it started going down, but he's fine, dude. He kept pushing. He told the doctors to get fucked.
Well, I would start with some L-theanine and probably some California poppy would be my 2 biggest things I'd be interested in the most that way, just to see how his brain responds to that amino acid and stuff. So that will help him. Now, if he's getting up because he's got to pee, well, then he has some blood sugar issues and some insulin issues. But if he just wakes up because he's just awake, doesn't have to pee, that's a different issue.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you said something about fake titties earlier. That reminded me about Botox. I was in Tijuana the other day, and these people wanted to give me some Botox for free. They said I'd look great. And I said, what is it? They said, oh, it's just going to make you look great. And then I looked it up online, and it's like a fucking toxin.
Well, it's a botulism toxin. Yeah, it's actually what it does. You're right. It'll spasm. It'll make things tight, but there's some issues that come with that.
Yeah, so I just didn't see the point in getting the shit.
I'm 50 years old and I have no wrinkles. Just take care of yourself.
How do you do that?
Well, remember, keep your inflammatory markers down. Make sure that you're giving your skin what it needs. If you think of it this way, most people don't get enough vitamin A. Most people don't get enough vitamin D, which is very important for skin health. Make sure your immune system is very non-inflammatory because, of course, that causes skin reactions and wrinkles and stuff. You have oxidative damage, which is like biting an apple that's set in oxygen and it starts to turn brown. That's why with the whole inflammatory thing. And that's why I said vitamin A itself. That's why, once again, take care of your skin internally and externally. It's really not that difficult. Put coconut oil on your skin. Put beef tallow on your skin. Things like that. Feed your skin. You know, people realize I'm 51. I'm going to be 51 this year. I go 100 miles an hour. I can bench 250 pounds. I work out, on a daily basis. I do wonderful things. I eat great. I drink a Zevia. I don't have anything bad. I have organic coffee in the morning. I eat lots of protein. It's like I take wonderful herbs and stuff like that. And I've never been on a medication. I don't take anything that way. I have 0 medications. My blood work's perfect. My testosterone level's 800. I mean, it's like just stuff you just do.
Is there? I hear of Tongat Ali stuff like that. Is that good for to raise your testosterone naturally? Well,
testosterone can be supported, and if you do have some deficiency, there can be some positive benefit to it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, what about colonoscopies? Are they good?
Well, once again, let's talk about this. Yeah. There should be no medical procedure as standard because there are problems that can happen with it. I just recommended a colonoscopy for one of my longest patients ever. Started with me 24 years ago because, once again, he had something happen. So therefore, the imaging is warranted. To do it just because you're 50 years old, no.
Okay. And what about seed oils? I hear a lot of shit about seed oils.
Well, you have to look at the history of them and stuff like that. Some people can tolerate them just fine. The majority of the world can't because of GI problems and everything. And there's better oils out there. It's like people say, well, doc, what about agave? Well, there's 10 other better sweeteners than agave. Why would I do it? There's better oils than seed oils. So why would I want to do them?
What are the best ones? What would you say the top 2, top 3?
Number 1, beef tallow by far. Coconut oil, would be fantastic. But lard, pig fat. Yeah. They've been used for thousands of years and things like that. So it's like, yeah. So, and the fiber is you talk about all the mental disorders. We have gone so saturated fat deficient that the vast majority of our brains made of saturated fats.
And they say that shit's bad for you. You hear that a lot. That's bad for you. Huh?
Well, if you have high sugar levels and have arterial damage, of course, saturated fats are bad for you. But in general, once again, they take the exception, not the rule, because so many people have such a bad diet. They're highly inflammatory. Their epithelial linings become damaged in their arteries. And of course, then saturated fats are going to pack them up because they're supposed to, so you don't blow an artery. And they say, look, it's the fat. Well, why don't you just have a crime scene and the cops get there and blame the cops? Oh, wait, Democrats try to do that.
And what about someone that fucking stinks? What can they do to stop stinking? Like just
um,
bad odor.
well, I think they're just have some liver issues and some other problems. I don't, odor, once again, to me, has to be taken lightly. And what I mean by that is this. If you have really bad odor, you're probably sick inside and you're just trying to get all the toxins out. There's going to be, now you're going to laugh at this. You ask my wife, I don't ever stink. My feet I don't have any sweaty feet. They sweat, but they don't stink. I don't ever have a BO no matter how much I work out or if I don't shower for 2 days that way. I think the healthier are the inside, it's like this, when people have very putrid gas. Yeah, there's bowel problems, there's microbial problems, things like that. A fart's going to always smell like a rose? No, but they shouldn't be clearing a room every time either.
Yeah.
But as Shrek said, better out than in.
Now, what do you think about homeschool
Um,
compared to public school?
Well, our current state of public school, I think is detrimental. I think that here's what happens this. I don't care if it's church, I don't care if it's school, I don't care if it's a friend group. You have to be careful who's influencing your kids.
Mm,
You saying? And right now, the current state of public school, I wouldn't send kids to. But I also understand, I'm empathetic for the single mom that makes 40,000 a year and she needs the assistance through public school and things like that they have no choice. Now, once again, I believe that, people say, well, everybody has a choice. Of course they do, but circumstances don't allow it. Okay. They just don't have the means or the capability. I would rather see somebody homeschooled than public school. A lot of people don't have the financial means. And so because the influence that other people have, your kids are so influential. They are, there's always a saying, never put your kids to where you're going to eventually hate them. Okay. I have a friend who's worth more than I am. He's probably worth 400 million bucks. And he sent his kid to an Ivy League school, and his daughter became a screaming liberal. And he even tried to explain to him, I'm a capitalist, and that's why you actually couldn't even go to that school. But see, you gotta be careful to put your kids in places that could influence them in a very negative way. And if you look at public schools, the average kid that goes to the public school, you don't want especially your daughters around. You say, so homeschooling, I think, would be a better benefit because you just have more influence over them.
for sure. Yeah. When I went looking for schools in
Mhm.
Arizona, I felt it was weird, but I said, "Hey, you guys think men are men and women are women, right?"
Mhm. Yep.
And there was 2 schools where they said, "Well," and as soon as they said, "Well,"
Done.
I said, "I'm fucking don't just," and they,
Yep.
"Well," I said, "Just shut the fuck up. Like,
Yep.
it's just gonna be bad. Like,
Yep.
just don't.
Yep.
It's scary. It's fucking scary.
Yeah.
It's
Well, so
scary."
and see, now remember, could there be some public schools out there that are decent? I think that if they got rid of the, Department of Education, I think it could be. I
Yeah,
think that if the states, because here's what happens. California schools will probably teach all transgender things.
mm,
Most of the places in Wisconsin would be like, you're crazy. So it should go back to the states.
for sure.
Mhm.
And okay, I wanted to ask you about there's a lot of parents that have kids with autism and they have
Mhm.
them on. They say, "Oh, well, all my kid likes is fucking Wendy's or McDonald's or chicken nuggets, so that's all I give them."
Mhm.
What would you say to someone like that? And what if they or what would you say to someone that's doing that for their kid?
Well, let's start here because I'm going to give you a spectrum of kids.
Yeah.
I can give you Connor, I was young in practice, was probably like 3 years in practice, and he was very severely autistic. Okay, no language. If and therefore, guess what happens? He had to have potatoes every single day, and obviously that'll be a little too high of sugar. So what we did is I said, listen, but he wanted a baked potato, but I mean, instead of getting baked potato or French fries, let them cool. So now the starches become more of a resistant starch, so the sugar level's a little bit better. It'll be it's remember like a potato, you make it healthier if you let it cool, and then even if you heat it again, because the starch actually binds together more like a fiber, and you have less sugar problems. Okay,
Okay.
but here's up is this: but if you didn't feed him, he wouldn't eat because of the major mental disability that he had. He would starve himself, and he would die from starvation. Now, on the flip side, you have the kids that they just are fussy. Well, here, what's this, Jerry? I'm going to put broccoli and kale in front of you every single day for next week. You're going to resist it a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, you won't if you're going to starve. So, kids are on the spectrum that actually can make some choices. Yeah, don't give them that stuff. You got to have a little more discipline with them. Kids that are on the very severe spectrum to where they will literally starve themselves, you have to get them to adapt and do the ad diet. add some things in with the potato. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just add some things in. So once again, you have to look at the state of what the child's in.
And in your opinion, have you seen anything with like sound therapy, like
Of course, it's fantastic.
scale?
Light therapy, sound, everything. Absolutely.
I took my daughter to I think it's called scalar frequency.
Yeah. There's
You've heard of
brain
that?
tap. There's a lot. Yeah, there's wonderful things. There's wonderful therapies out there like that.
Someone told me about doing this. It creates
Yep.
new neural pathways. That's
Of
true.
course it does. Absolutely.
Oh wow!
Mhm.
And someone can just do it like that on their kids a couple
Yeah.
times a day.
Very cheap and effective therapy. If you ever noticed, and this was very difficult for young moms to understand, kids on the autism spectrum actually have more of sexual tendencies because touch is very common to them. You know what I'm saying? They actually want to be touched more. They want to be rubbed more. They want to be stuff like that. And I actually have had parents say they're just playing with themselves all the time because there's sensory stimulation that way. It calms the brain down. Why do you think they shake? This does not excite them. This calms their brain down. Here, do your hand like this for a second, Jared. Okay, now stop. Feel that vibration? That's called proprioception. It's very common to the nervous system.
Yeah.
That's why kids on the autism spectrum are very tactile. And see, what happened is I was so sensitive that too much would make me angry. That's why if you notice kids on the spectrum, if it's too much stimulation, it'll set them off mentally, even to anger and violence.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
This whole world I know.
Wow. And okay, what about, we talked about this last time, but it didn't come out. Men with low testosterone, it's getting lower and lower in the world.
Yeah.
Is there a good age for men to get on like TRT, stuff like that?
Um,
Do you recommend some people? Like, I know you got to get tests done and all that shit, but
I don't think anybody should ever be on TRT ever.
wow. And I see commercials for that every fucking day.
I see commercials for the COVID vaccine too.
Well, so what would you recommend a man with low testosterone do instead of doing the TRT?
Start asking the right questions. Okay, let me see a question. Why, as you see the stats, why is testosterone lower in men today than it was 30 years ago?
Diet?
I actually have very high testosterone for my age.
Yeah.
You said I was at 856 last time I had a lab done. Those are teenage years. No, those are called taking care of yourself.
Because there's like 28-year-olds with like 300, huh?
Oh, I've seen it lower than that.
Wow. Does that make them more likely to be more feminine?
Well, put it this way. If you have zero fuel in the car, no matter if it's a brand new engine, it ain't running. You understand? And that's why we talk about there's physical and mental things that happen based on hormones. If you have high estrogen, you're going to have more female characteristics. You're going to have more female things that way. And if it's a guy that has it, they're going to adapt them on, just like if they have low testosterone. Just like if you take testosterone and put it excessively, violence, anger, and even rape happens and murder. It's even listed if it gets too high. Okay. So here's my point. The first question is this: where does testosterone come from? The vast majority of testosterone, about 95%, is produced by a testicle. So you're telling me over the last 30 to 50 years, all the guys' testicles are becoming damaged? No. See, testosterone is not an edge state hormone. It can convert to other forms. It can convert to estrogens. That's why if you ever noticed, you'll see this a lot. You'll see guys that take TRT or take other testosterone replacement, they'll give them an aromatase drug to stop it converting to estrogens. See, men are converting their testosterone to estrogen so quickly through adipose tissue. So when you start to see a man start to get any kind of belly fat, they're going to start to convert it down to estrogens, and they're going to move away from having normal testosterone levels.
Oh, wow.
So once again, do you see younger men being fatter or more fit younger today?
Mostly fatter.
Thank you. So what do you think is happening to their testosterone levels? They're going to aromatase down. So get your ass in a gym, keep a lower body fat, eat a higher protein diet. You know what I'm saying? The most casual things. I'm going to go work out pretty hard when I'm done here. I'm going to probably bench 250, 200. I'm trying to get 275 today. You know what I'm saying? And get some high intensity, get that muscle, get that stuff in there. Be it 195 pounds, 5'11". You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah.
And my testosterone levels are elevated. I have great cardiovascular health. I go 100 miles an hour. My energy never slows down. Do you think that's by chance or do you think that's by work?
Daily work.
Yeah. And when you take things like TRT, you're going to end up with some cardiomegaly and stuff like that. And I'm concerned about the heart issues all these people are going to get.
What's that? That's a medicine?
Large aspect of certain ventricles of the heart.
Oh, wow.
And they're going to have strokes and heart attacks and all thing that comes with it. It's one of the side effects.
Oh, wow. I saw a video where you were talking about putting an ice pack on your balls.
Yep.
That what's that do?
Okay, why do you think we have a sack? Okay, if you get too warm, do you see how nice and loose it gets? Because your testicles and your sperm have to stay at a certain temperature.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's not 98.6. So therefore, and here's what happens this. Now, walk outside when it's cold. Where does that sack go? Gets the close to your body trying to warm up a little bit. Okay, when you actually keep the temperature more on a low end, you just get better function. That's all you do. Okay, so you think I'm joking? I have clothes on, I have shorts on, but in the morning when I get up and I'm having my mental wrestle every morning, I take a covered ice pack and I set it between my legs. You want to talk about waking your ass up quick? Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, so you're fighting with the shit up here and
That's
the
right,
cold.
both ends. You understand? It's
That's
like,
good.
yeah, and and once I wiggle that, once I get it all figured out, my wife's up, she can warm them up for me. Okay, so it's like, see, yeah. So no, but there is just a simple positive benefit from it that way. Now, don't put a direct ice on your balls itself. Have your shorts on, have your underwear on. Make the area just a little bit more cooler that way,
Yeah.
and stuff of that, and it just creates a little bit better function.
And okay, so what if my daughter, for example, what if she got like the flu or temperature? Um, if someone's kid gets like a temperature like 101, what would be a I don't like to give her like Tylenol or any of that type of shit. What are some I know it's hard to recommend shit, right? But like what would be like a protocol that could you recommend something like that? Like what would be okay to do?
I don't know. I would have to talk to my dishwasher. You know, Sam, because my dishwasher is it can use hot or cold water.
Wait, what?
My dishwasher.
Yeah.
Okay, what I have in my house is it can use hot or cold water for my dishes, my dirty dishes.
Hot.
Well, why? Why doesn't it choose cold?
Because the hot gets the shit off easier.
And it kills the what?
The germs.
So why you want to lower 101 temperature?
Yeah. See that's I've heard that your body's when it gets hot like that, it's because it's getting rid of the virus, so you want to let it fucking go through, right?
That's a normal natural response to
But
actually elevate but beyond there. And then here we go. Let's talk about this. Here comes the exception. Oh, my daughter got 105 and had a seizure. Yeah, it releases the heat. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and you know how many, and the only way you ever die from a fever is dehydration. You don't die from a fever and stuff like that. But the people that can die from long dehydration is because they're already immunodeficient. They can't even handle the bacteria, virus, or parasite or things that they have in the first place. And it's more in third world countries. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It's like, and so the concept of fevers are bad and stuff like that. What's the leading cause of liver disease in children? Tylenol. Who says so? Tylenol. It's a side effect. Okay. It's this concept of actually this concept of lowering fevers. And you ever notice this? Ask any parent. When the child has a fever for 2 or 3 days, what happens to them neurologically? It's very neurologically stimulating and growing. You see better development on them.
Oh wow. See, there's been a couple times where my daughter, for example, when she was with my baby mom, if she got a temperature, she would take her to the hospital,
Ugh.
and dude, they would inject her to bring her fucking temperature down.
Yeah, it's crazy. They also inject you with COVID vaccine too.
Dude, what the
Mhm.
fuck? What the fuck? Okay, you talk about eating liver a lot. You say liver's
Mhm.
good. What about like the intestines from like a cow and chicken hearts? I like to give chicken hearts to my daughter.
Yeah. Well, I say chicken hearts are amazing. Actually, the best food on the planet still found today is a cod liver. That's why I like cod liver oil so much. There's a cod liver. I'll order them right off of Amazon, and they'll come in nice little packets that way. And you look at really high dense nutrient, wide variety trace mineral foods. Organ meats are the most rich foods on the planet. And you ever look at any animal species? What's the first thing the dominant male eats on the animal? The organs, the muscle meats. Do you understand the history of meat? Muscle meats were for the slaves and the peasants. Organ meats were for all the royalty.
Yeah.
You say they're
Yeah,
the
yeah,
most
yeah.
nutrient dense foods. We got away from them for two reasons. Number one, they don't taste as good. Number two, mass production. You can't mass produce a lot of hearts, and you can't make them bigger without making them really bad. You can't make a liver bigger without making it bad. And so therefore you can do that with muscle meats though.
Mm,
Mhm.
okay. So that's good to give her like once or twice a week some chicken
Yeah,
hearts?
it's fantastic for her.
Okay, and then my dad, he has his retinas are super thin.
Mhm.
Is there anything he can do, like any specific?
Yeah, vitamin A. Remember, the retina is just a nerve extended with actually some sensory to light at the end. And where do you think the term retina come from? Retinol, vitamin A,
What's the best way to take vitamin A? Like,
organ meats, cod liver oil.
perfect. Okay.
Organ meats, or when people say skin issues, organ meats, vitamin A.
Okay. And do you recommend coffee? Is coffee good or bad?
Coffee has a great acid within there. It's fantastic for you.
Okay. And
Now, once
what
again, you gotta watch for mold and things like that. So there are great non-third party tested mold or coffees out there and stuff. Just get a very good version of it.
okay.
It's like any food, least processed, the most pure food you can get.
And what's the most important thing to you in life? What are the most important things?
Um, it's really funny. I've been talking about this a lot. Mine thing has changed because I used to say God, but what's going to sound funny? It's not. Now, for all my Christian friends, understand. Look at even my people in back there. Do I believe that there's a God? Yes. Do I believe in Jesus? Yes. That's my whole thing that way. I think that um, let's just put it this way. You can't separate a man from his purpose. I believe God gives everybody a purpose. And it's
Sure.
your job to find it and your job to work on it every single day as long as you're alive. And that has made me a great man of faith. That has made me a great husband, has made me a great leader, has made me a great father, has made me hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's going to sound funny. And I believe that everybody has that capability. I believe that everybody does. I don't believe I'm special. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just, because you know what happens is special means that you're automatically given it. That's not true. I believe that we have to work for everything that we do have, even the gifts that we do have. I don't care how gifted you are. If you don't work on it, it'll destroy you and stuff. So I think the thing I value the most is time. That's why I don't waste it. I think that men are supposed to set up a legacy. I think it's very embarrassing that you study about the Rothschilds and the Kennedys, and I know one of the Kennedys, and our things of this, but you can't even tell me about your great grandparents because they've done nothing of significance or legacy.
Mhm.
And so therefore, I mean, I always ask people this: tell me about your great grandparents, and they're like, I don't even know their names. I'm like, so you ever heard of John F. Kennedy? Oh yeah, he's assassinated president. Wow, you learn more about somebody else's heritage and family.
Mhm.
It's
True.
almost like a prince always wanted to be like the king, not like the jester. Why? And so legacy to me is so important. I create a family crest for the Flynn family crest that way, what we stand for, what we do. And I think that generations should be proud of their generations. Um, but that puts a lot of responsibility as me as a man. And that's why I think that Wild grind at it 7 days a week. And
How,
you can't separate a man from his purpose.
how do you want your people to remember you? What do you want your legacy to be?
That's very simple. You know what I'm saying? I actually have I will be cremated because I don't want to be buried and stuff like that. It's like here's what happens. This all I want to be known for was I invest into other people as a husband, as a father, as a doctor, as a friend, as a boss, as a leader. You invest in other people, and where people stop investing in people is because you have to understand that the vast majority of people you invest in will not work out. So then people stop doing it.
Sure.
I was married and it sucked. Well, get another marriage. Invest into another people. All people are different. And you'd be surprised that most people don't invest in their people. You know what I'm saying? Parents don't invest into their kids. They really don't. Most parents do not. They think because I gave you a home and I sent you to school that was good enough. And then that's why I've always said this. I've always said this. I have 4 daughters, but if I had a son and looked up to another man, I'd be embarrassed.
Mhm.
The
For
prince
sure.
always wanted to be like the king. And that's when men or young men look up to me, or even men my age look up to me, I'm going, I'm saddened that you didn't have a dad that you could look up to and stuff.
100%.
And yeah, I love my dad like crazy, but he was in prison. I had to figure this shit out on my own. My people, my next generation, my next generations. It's really funny. It's like even my nephews and even my that have sons and have stuff like that. We're training them up right now. You know, Sam.
Yeah.
So yeah, because it's like this. I play with my nephew Brandon, who's like my son. I play with his sons, and I push them over and knock them over. I say, "Get your butt up," and
Hell
they're
yeah.
1, 2 years old.
Hell yeah.
And it's like you got to learn. Life is tough. Get up.
Get
You
used to
say,
it.
get used
Yeah.
to it. Here we go.
I like
Yep.
that.
Mhm.
And what about for someone to have a happy marriage? What would you say are the top 2 or 3 qualities to have a happy marriage? Or
It's only one. There's only one thing you need. You need a man that's working on himself. That's it.
okay,
If he's working on himself, he's going to break up his values, he's going to break up his muscle, he's going to break up his mind, he's going to break up his money, and that woman is going to be attracted to him by nature. You saying? It's
100%.
like, here, I'll watch this. I guarantee, and I mean this very humbly, I guarantee if there's a woman out there that has a shitty man right now watching two guys like us talk like this, she's turned on. She's like, I wish I had a man like that, because innately they want somebody to provide, protect, and procreate with.
100%.
And that's why if a woman comes say, I make $1 million, like, who cares? You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, even if in only men that would get excited about that are lazy men. You know what I'm saying? A guy, us as men, we want to be the gateway to the world to a woman. We do. We want to show them all the experiences we possibly could. You know what I'm saying?
Fuck yeah.
And so if a man's working on himself to bring up his 3 M's, his mind, muscle, money, if he's a great provider, protector, and procreator with a woman, that family is going to be great and stuff like that. And then the woman needs to be sexy, serene, and supportive.
Oh
You
yeah.
say, and it doesn't mean that she can't enter the workforce, but then she has to understand when she gets to the workforce, don't come home and bitch because there's not participation trophies and everybody's equal.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Mhm.
Okay, now if you were on your deathbed, what would your last message be to the world and to your kids?
It's really simple. Continue the legacy I started, because what I'm doing applies to everybody. It's going to be great for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're man, woman, black, white, Afghanistan, Iraq, U.S. Do you understand that true capitalism and true legacy and true bring it up here? Here, let me see a question. That's why success breeds our success. Tell me what the world would be like if everybody tomorrow woke up and said, I'm just going to bring up my value, which means you're better for everybody around you. And everybody says that tomorrow. What happens to the whole world?
1,000,000% better.
That's it. Has nothing to do with control of other people. It's people controlling themselves. I get up every morning and say, I have to be better for Christy. I have to be better for my $4. I have to be better for Jerry. Jerry, I'm better than I was when I met you last time. And I will be better 6 months from now.
I love it.
And so therefore, here's up is this. And that has nobody's responsibility beyond but myself. That's not up to Christy. It's not up to my girls. It's not up to my employees. I can't blame anybody but myself. It's self-responsibility.
For
That's all
sure.
this. Continue that.
I love it, man. I love it. Thank you very much, brother. I
Welcome, man.
appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you.
Honor, and Aaron is amazing. Everybody, thank
Yep.
you. Thank you for all you do, man. I really appreciate you, brother.
Same here. I love you a lot, man. You're awesome. You're great for this world. I said that when I met you a while ago, I said, we're friends. We text each other. We still talk, and I appreciate our friendship.
Thank you. The same here, man. I love what you're doing. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, brother.
Talk to you soon, man.
Thank you.